All right. Hey, everybody. Welcome. This is your June 2026 edition of Cloudy County. Cloudy County is a fictitious virtual county extension office that Joe and I made up about how many years ago, Joe? Three? More than three?
I think really need to look at what our birthday is, but it's yeah, 3 years
Three-ish years
coming
ago.
there. Yep.
Um, and Joe and I, well, that's Joe. He's a Microsoft MVP, sysadmin down in University of Florida. I'm a cloud solution architect with Microsoft, but I used to work with Joe at the University of Florida, and we both spent many, many years supporting the land grant mission, and we love extensions. So we started this 3 years ago to teach you all cool stuff, so that you learn how to do something new. And hopefully, always the goal is to make your life a little bit easier with maybe a new piece of technology or a new app or something. In some cases, like the last couple of years, has been a lot of AI. Something new comes out and makes some process take less time or less painful. That's always been our goal. Usually our sessions are divided into three pieces, not very equally, but we have a what's new, like here's some new stuff. Microsoft releases new things every single week. And so
Yeah.
we try to take all that material and through some process of osmosis or whatever, try to turn around and give it back to you so that you can understand what's happening, what's changing in the Microsoft world. We do a feature highlight and then we stop the recording and open it up for questions. But this particular month, there's just a lot of news. So it's just you're going to get a lot of news. And then you're going to get to ask us whatever you want to ask us. So we don't have a particular feature highlight for this month, but we will for next month. Um, so I would say just buckle up and get ready for lots of updates. Some of them are Microsoft specific. Some of them are Cloudy County specific. So excited about some stuff that we've been working on there. So Joe, where do you want to start? You want to start with the Cloudy County specific or the Microsoft specific?
Um, start with the Microsoft specific.
Okay,
I'll share a screen here and get us started for a bit. I'll do that. Click. Oh,
got it.
yeah. So first thing I want to start with is what we like to do here is go through some changes, updates, and going to drop into chat right now. Um, just a great site to keep on your radar if you want to kind of see what's coming up and happening. This message center is publishing majority of roadmap items and what are called the message center items. The message center is typically only accessible to global administrators or someone with a message center reader role in your organization. And some of these may apply to your environment. Some of them may not apply to your environment. Majority of them typically will, but there are sometimes message center posts related to specifically your own organization, specifically sometimes education. So not everything is going to be here and accessible, visible, but vast majority of major items. So just keep that in your wheelhouse of curious about what's changing over the month. Something to look at. Something we've been talked about for quite a while, and we're starting to see some of the final pieces of that puzzle come together. Is some major enhancements to private channels that will help them more closely align with shared channels. So private channels were our first non-standard channel in Teams that gave us the ability to segment off portion of a Microsoft team for a specific set of people, specific smaller subset of members of the team, and give them a place to use information. Usually we see this related to like an HR team, perhaps for maybe an entire department might get their own channel, or just something that is meant to be private again from the rest of the members. Initially, you could get 30 private channels. Fewer members could be in a private channel, and they didn't have some features that were really nice with respect to applications that you could kind of embed in and tab in. And one that now we're starting to finally see show up is the ability to schedule a meeting in a private channel. So what does that look like? You could have a meeting in a private channel. Maybe again, we're talking like your HR team. Everybody could go into that channel a certain time of the day, and there's always been a meet now button. You could just start something right into a private channel. So I'm in a private channel here, T1000. It's got a little lock icon and gives me an idea that it's private. I've got another icon up here that's private. We could always, again, run a meeting in there, and just the people who are members of that channel would be joining that. Now we've got schedule a meeting. So that should be showing up for everyone. This is just started showing up maybe just in the last couple of weeks. I could start seeing that.
It
And
sounds
also
minor, but
yeah,
that's huge because you and I have always gotten questions ever since private channels came out. I'm going to rewind a little bit, take us off
yeah,
track.
yeah.
Since you and I started rolling out teams, the question we always got was, how do I add somebody to a channel? And when teams first came out, that wasn't a thing. You didn't add them to a channel. You added them to the team, which gave them access to all of the channels. Now, when private channels came out, it made this little secret spot that you could create for like an admin group or like a sub project, or if there was some sort of like sensitivity or privacy reason why not all the other members could see this stuff without having to spin up a whole nother team and have more teams to be a part of. You could create a private channel and you could put stuff there. And Joe and I always used to tell people they're really only good for private conversation and private file storage because they didn't support scheduled meetings and they didn't support some of the other applications that I'm sure Joe's going to get into. So scheduling meetings in a private channel, it may seem kind of like a big deal. Like it is a pretty big deal. And the fact that this upgrade, if you will, happened automatically to all the channels that are already out there. Joe didn't have to create a brand new channel to receive this. Existing private channels were migrated, if you will, over to this new tech so that you can have scheduled meetings. So this is going to check off lots of boxes for lots of people, I think. And it's going to, you don't have to create more teams now. So I think this is a really, really good change.
Yeah. And the other aspects, go back to this document here, is again, we went from 30 to basically you can fill your team completely with private channels. And our number of members for that private channel has been
You
risen
and
up
I
to
have seen that limit hit multiple times, the 30.
the 30. Yep. Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely. Um, again, something that maybe you thought of a number of years ago is not meeting your needs. You've gone and created multiple other teams, things like that. Maybe you have a chance now to maybe consolidate and stop some of the team sprawl that can happen. Some other features that are available here now. One of the key apps, and that is also we're looking for to come into a private channel, is bringing Planner in. Show this to you, but it has been it's gotten delayed, so maybe we'll see that for next month, and we can dive into that better. But having Planner available in that private channel, shared channels, private channels would be very nice to have also. That's a key tool set, especially when sometimes private channels are maybe even project based, and you want to kind of track what you're doing. Having a private planner in there built right in will be a very nice feature to have. Um, these are a number of features kind of roll out that you just don't even really know about, and that's where this message center can come into play. Is how would you this isn't a feature that is just going to show up and there's a button to click or take advantage of it, but just kind of give you an idea of some things that are happening often, especially on the Copilot space, is just continual improvements around the language models that are available and some of the harnessing of those tools. Copilot is getting better with images that are embedded in your documents and understanding what those images are, charts and graphs, screenshots, things like that that might be in a Word file that you add into your chat and ask questions about it. Hopefully those are going to start improving the responses and understanding of what those files are. Again, just something that behind the scenes, we're getting little tweaks here and there that might not know about. Take advantage of the Message Center. Sure, to the private, I'll drop a link in there real quick for you, asking about a link to I believe this is it, into the private channel information. There you go. There's a number of, there's almost too many right now. I have to see where we end up with this. But learning agents. So these are agents that are already available. I'm going to show you real quick what I mean and what might be available to you and what might not be available to you, depending potentially on the license that you have. So what we're talking about here is there's a learning agent. Now this is going to be Copilot Premium is what this one is looking like, but this is just giving me an idea to kind of point out what you do have with respect to agents in Copilot Chat that you can use to help learn new skills. And let's take a look at those real quick. So I'm going to go over to Copilot Chat. I'm in a regular Copilot basic user, and I'm going to go down to more agents. And I'm just going to put in search for learn. Hit enter. So we've got a few extras here, I think, because we're at all of you on the call are going to be education too. I've got a study and learn that I can open up. This agent, student focused, but aren't we all students? So help you understand and practice some type of information that you're trying to work through. We've got access to that. We've got an AI learning advisor that's open now and available. Help us understand how to use Copilot products. And then this is the learning one. And this one is an add-on. This one, if you have the Copilot license, help you learn AI through that tool. So take advantage of those. There's also a learning coach. This one's been around a while. That I would say this is might be one you might try if you're not trying to learn and study a subject, but there's a few in there to take advantage of.
And Joe,
this one I feel like renamed recently too on top of it, but yeah.
In just satisfy my curiosity, when you go under new chat, can you hit study and learn mode directly from there?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. And this is a mode for, well, exactly as the name implies, to study and learn something. And learning is not, hey, I asked AI a question and it gave me the answer. Like, it's programmed not to just provide you with the answer. It's programmed to help you actually absorb and comprehend whatever the topic is that you're trying to learn about. Obviously, I feel like we could say this is probably more targeted at students, being that it's an education feature. A lot of educators out there want a learning mode where AI is not just spoon feeding the answers, it's explaining why the answer is the answer. But I need to learn stuff all the time. So I think everybody could benefit from trying it out. And it is an education specific feature. Yeah. So only EDUs will see it. What that means is if you have an account with your local county, and you sign in to the Copilot that's associated with your county, you might not see, like you will not see study and learn listed there. You'll have to be signed in with the account that's connected to your state university.
This again, if you have some time to actually study and learn, this would be an interesting tool to use. Because like you're saying, Dwayne, about just, it's in Copilot's a great answer engine. But are you doing some research beyond the response? Are you thinking cognitively and critically about that? And these kind of tools, um, Microsoft has its own research arm around using AI tools and making sure that we're still learning while we're using these. And certainly in the education space, taking advantage of using AI to help you learn, not just give you answers, is great to see that available to us. So this is a nice little feature that they're going to re-rolling out. If you have done your best to switch over to using shortcuts in OneDrive, so highly recommend that if you, well, I recommend you use it no matter what, is so that your files are with you on your local computer, on your desktop. Often a lot easier to work in your Mac in Finder or in File Manager, File Explorer on Windows. Work with those files right on your computer. The older way, the classic way, is something called sync. So you can sync files from a SharePoint site from your team. The new way is to create a shortcut to OneDrive. And if you use that extensively, you end up with a lot of shortcuts in your OneDrive, and they thankfully have been named now in a better way, which is they get named by the team name and then the channel that you synced. But those files can still be thrown all the way around, and they kind of, to me, I try to treat them a little bit differently than what I think is my OneDrive. So if we look at a OneDrive folder, got a OneDrive folder open here. And it's fairly easy to tell which ones are the shortcuts. We get a little icon with an arrow to give us an idea of where those shortcuts are. There's a shortcut, this one right here. It's got its standard default name, team name, hyphen, whatever the name of the channel was. And I liked to always kind of put those someplace special so that I knew that that data lives somewhere else. It lives, I clearly understood it was in a team, it was in a SharePoint site, it was not in my own personal myself and I OneDrive, but I could easily get to it in OneDrive, and that's the beauty of a shortcut in OneDrive. I was always renaming these, which is something you can safely do, and putting a underscore to kind of pop those shortcuts up to the top of my OneDrive. Well, Microsoft is going to now give you the option of actually creating a folder, shortcuts, and all these could automatically, when they get created, end up in a shortcut folder. And that's something you can find. And you can do that now. You can create a folder and move these shortcuts into a folder yourself if you wanted to. So a nice enhancement, it used to be when you created a shortcut at OneDrive, it created a folder based upon the name of the channel. So if you did a lot of general channels, it wasn't a great experience. Now they added the ability to put automatically the team name and then the channel name. And now they're going to help also continue that next step, which is if you want to separate those into their own subfolder.
Can you show real quick the UI in a Teams channel on how one would get a shortcut?
Yeah.
Because if anybody hasn't seen this, this could change your life as far as like how you get to stuff.
I'm
Because
not sure if let's see if I have anything in here or not. I've got a folder at least. So I'm in a project 5. I'm in a channel, looking at some files potentially in here. And thankfully, Microsoft is starting to move this better option, our new option, further up into this stack of menu items and doing a better job of hiding the old one, which was sync. Sync is a per computer method. So if you were moving around computers, using multiple computers, you would have to do sync on every single one of those for every single thing that you cared about. Nice thing about shortcut to OneDrive is that is a shortcut that's in your OneDrive. OneDrive follows you around wherever you are, even on your mobile devices. So nice and easy to get to. If I click add shortcut to OneDrive, it just says right down here what it did, added one shortcut to my files in OneDrive. And if we give it a second, hopefully that is going to show up on my computer already. So I'm back in File Explorer and we can see it's already
And
there.
that was live. So that went
Geo
from
test. Yep.
a button he pushed over in Teams to the folder appearing on his Windows computer in File Explorer. And so for anybody, that's the magic, is I can now get to all the stuff that's in a Teams channel the same way I used to get to my network drive 10 years ago. I can open up the Manila folder in File Explorer and click around in a few folders and see all the content that's in that team without even ever having to open Teams or SharePoint. This works for SharePoint.
Yep.
And this also works for OneDrive. So if somebody shares a folder with you from their OneDrive, you can make a shortcut to it that shows up in your OneDrive. And I mean, the name shortcut is quite literal. You're jumping over to where that stuff is in that team. And so if Joe, made a change to a file or added a new file or something like that on his computer, that change would show up for everybody else over in Teams. So all that syncing stuff is still kept intact. It's just a more convenient way for you to access your stuff that might be stored in Teams. And making a shortcuts folder. I mean, I was doing that manually, so I feel like this is great for me because now I don't have to continue to move things into a shortcut folder.
Yeah, that's great. And you can see I just renamed this one. So again, that shortcut's for you. Renaming that is just, again, it's a shortcut somewhere, just like you're maybe a shortcut to a website. So that's something that you can safely do and take advantage of that. If you have been still using sync, recommend unsyncing first. Go into your OneDrive account settings down in your system tray, and you can stop synchronizing. Maybe take a screenshot of what you were synchronizing, and then let that sync, disabling that synchronization process finish. Make sure that that's done, and you can go create a shortcut instead and switch over. I think it's gotten better even helping you through that process, I think. So right now, if you try to shortcut someplace that you're syncing, it'll kind of give you an idea like, hey, we can't do that in two different ways. So I'll help migrate you. We talked a little bit about this a while ago about some changes Microsoft is making around Teams Premium licensing, and some of the advantages that you get with Teams Premium coming to everyone. Some features were still going to be held back inside of Teams Premium. One of them is the ability to add some custom backgrounds or manage what attendees see experience in Teams events. So if you want to push brand identity throughout your event, like a town hall and a webinar, you're going to be able to bring in your company logos, bring in backgrounds, that kind of information into the environment that your presenters and the content that you're pushing out to people during in that experience. You're going to be able to control that again, still with that Teams Premium license, which are pretty inexpensive annually for education. So if you really want to have a great branded experience, if pushing a town hall, I think I started one up here. I was looking to see if I have that option yet. I didn't yet, but
can you try it through the Meet app?
Sorry,
the Meet app. see, because I think that's where
maybe
it's gonna get
get
kicked
added.
off
Yeah.
from.
Yeah. Well, why is it not wanting to?
Now you broke it.
No, I broke it. There we go. Yeah, there's this option down here that we have is manage what attendees see. So this is basically with this option, you're kind of running a little mini television studio. If you're the organizer, co-organizer, presenter, someone who is capable of controlling and having the production tools, you can decide exactly what goes out on the computer screen with respect to the videos of people and the content. And the background behind those is where you're going to be able to have some of this new branded content. Um, let's see. Yep.
This is gonna give everybody professional level scheduling, in online events, basically, with no extra licensing required. Which is pretty pretty wild. Probably something. I know we did a session on town halls and webinars a while back. We might want to revisit it now that this new scheduling experience here is available, and
Some of those features from premium is now basically included.
Yeah.
To cover it.
Yeah.
So,
but the thing you have on your screen there about the attendee, that's what's going to be licensed.
Yep.
So they're not going to license based on the capabilities of the town hall or the webinar, like what buttons can I push. The licensing will be based on how many thousands of people do you need to be able to interact in this event. And I think you can get up to 3,000 interactive without any extra licensing.
Yep.
And if you have to go over that, that's when you would need to call somebody and say, hey, I need usually they would license like a event person, and that person would schedule for you. And that person would have the capacity license assigned to them.
Yep. That's this LEAP program. So if you really want to push that limit, Microsoft's got some help to make sure that runs smoothly. So.
Yeah, we've talked about this before, and I think anytime I've ever said, like, raise your hand if you've hosted an event with more than 3,000 interactive attendees. We don't get a lot of people that raise their hand, and so I don't think this will negatively. I think this will be all positive.
Yeah.
I think all the new features that you're going to get in town halls and webinars are going to be better than the very, very, very small population of people who might now need a license for their very large events that they want to run. But I think you can still run up to 10,000 non-interactive. So like they can't have chat and they can't have cameras and stuff like that. So I think that will still work.
Yeah, I think that would be with, I think it goes to 20 with the premium license that I'm seeing here is where kind of the limit is. But I think without the premium, it's 10, like you were saying. 3,000 interactive, 10,000 non. This was just published 2 days ago. Copilot notebooks for chat basic users. So this would be anyone with a license to basically log into your tenant. They're going to have capabilities of using a notebook. I think after this, Dwayne, we would talk about the new website. Do you want to cover notebooks or
sure? Yeah,
just
I could
lead into that.
Can show some notebook stuff for a test user who has a license, because the feature that Joe's showing hasn't actually come out yet. So give me a sec. And I can explain what a notebook is and why you should care. And I'll do a really quick speedy version of it, because once this feature rolls out for all users, Joe and I will certainly do a highlight and talk about nothing but notebooks. The first thing is the Copilot app changed again. Um,
Yeah, that's right.
surprise. So this is a user that has a Copilot license. They no longer see the ability to flip back and forth between work or web. They now have a little toggle here that says work IQ, and that's how you turn off access to work mode or work data. It's just an on off button. The web turning on and off web search has been buried underneath the three little dots. That's always been that way, but just in case somebody was like, well, can I turn off web? Yes, you can. You still can do that. It's in the same spot as it was before. Um, Also, the waffle came back. This was pretty big deal. There were lots of like pitchforks and torches when the waffle was taken away. A lot of people loved the little 3x3 squares, and it was a great little app launcher. It made a lot of sense. It still showed up in other places. Why did it come out of here? Well, Microsoft listened to reason. They brought it back. So now the waffle is back, and notebooks are tucked underneath the waffle. Now, if you don't have a Copilot license like this user has, says down at the bottom left, he has premium. If you don't have a Copilot license, then you're not going to see notebooks right now. That's the whole deal about what Joe was showing there is, let me see if I have that message center post. Uh, yeah, so this particular update is saying that basic users are going to have access to notebooks. So what is a notebook? Well, it says it's an AI-powered workspace where users can organize content, add references, and interact with Copilot to reason over material. Okay, that sounds a little bit like an agent. It kind of is. They're agent-y. And I'm going to be very transparent. I do not know if there's going to be any kind of like limitations on what could a basic user add to their notebook versus what I'm going to be able to do right now with this premium user. All that stuff's kind of still up in the air. But just as a basic overview, I have a notebook here called IT operations. And inside of this notebook, I have selected resources, references, they're called. You'll see the ability to add references. And what I'm doing is I can collect material and I can bundle it together. So imagine material for a project that you're working on, or a bunch of documentation you've got for your department and like how your department does stuff. You can take all that and group it together and put it inside this notebook or reference it with this notebook. And then over here, when I ask questions like, how do I reset a user's password? Um, it's going to scan all of the material that has been included in the notebook and search for answers across all of that stuff. That's called grounding. So I'm grounding my notebook's content on, specified resources that I've selected. One thing that's relatively new about this, it was included in this what's new in date somewhere in here. Somewhere in here. I can't remember which one of these it was. Oh, there it is. You can now add an entire OneNote notebook as a reference in a Copilot notebook. And I see in the chat, class notebook. We got notebooks for notebooks, y'all. It's it's so crazy. So no, this is not related to a class notebook in that regard. And I don't know if I could add a class notebook in here. A class notebook is just a OneNote. There, it's a OneNote that's built a certain way for students. But I can go through and I can see that the sources that are listed here. So let me kind of make this bigger. The sources that are listed here is just this OneNote, but it went through all the pages and all the sections. Joe and I have for a long time on the same team stored everything that our team does in a big ol' honking OneNote. And the search function in OneNote ask a question like, how do I reset a user's password? I would have to go do like a hunt and peck, keyword search kind
Keyword
of thing.
searching, back
Yeah.
to keyword searching. Yeah.
Now I can just ask the question and I can get the answers. And if I want to know, like, well, let me go look at the source. Where did that come from? I can click on it and it will take me straight to that section and that page. So notice how it took me into identity and access, MFA and self-service password reset. It took me right to the page where Copilot got the instructions from. So this is probably one of the biggest updates a lot of my customers are super excited about, is being able to ground on an entire OneNote, because lots of shops out there use OneNote to store how they do stuff. Class notebooks are OneNote notebooks, so I think it stands to reason if you had a class notebook, you could include it in here as well if you wanted to. But you'll see when I go to add references, I can add, files I have access to, meetings, sites. It'll look pretty similar. If I'm being honest, let me switch over to Beverly, who does not have a Copilot license. And we talked last month about Outlook. People, meetings, emails, like it looks real similar to what I can select from here. So I suspect that basic users will have the same interface and be able to do this. There'll probably would just be limits on how much stuff can you add to a notebook. If I had to guess, I know as much as y'all know about that. But you can add references. You can also create your own content that lives inside of the notebook, and you can do that in the way of pages. So these are like loop pages. If anybody here's used loop before, this is really similar to like a loop workspace. So I can add my own pages in here. So maybe I want to make new content. It's not already out on a SharePoint site, or I don't want another document in my OneDrive. I could just make a page. And then the pages in here are also used whenever I ask Copilot a question about my notebook. The pages are considered as well. So here I've got a Kanban board. I could do a planner board in here if I wanted to. You could do all kinds of stuff, just like you can over in Loop. Some of this other fancy stuff, like creating mind maps and stuff, I don't know that basic users will have that. If I had to guess, I'd say probably not. Some of this stuff is in what we call Frontier, which means your IT admins have to enable you to see early features. So mind map is still in Frontier, but some of these other ones might work. I don't know. We'll just have to kind of wait and see. And then if you want your notebook to behave a certain way, similar to an agent, which Joe, did we do a session on agents?
It's been a while. I mean, it's probably been a year. I think.
Does anybody here remember it? If everybody says no, then I think that's a sign.
I think I worked with, I think we did a Penn State extension link or something like that. We did an agent.
Oh, that was a long time ago.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, it might be worth revisiting because that's gotten better. But a concept of agents is something called instructions, which is where you're programming it how to behave. Like you're making an employee. Like imagine you could sit down with a blank slate and you could build an employee that only talks like Johnny Depp in Pirates of the Caribbean. Like you only wanted to do that. Well, that's called something you would put in the instructions. And notebooks have the same kind of concept. So I could click on the name of the notebook, go to Copilot instructions and say, only talk to me, me like Captain Jack Sparrow, and click save. And now that's a persistent instruction that's inside of this notebook that it should always do. So if I go back to overview, start a new chat, how do I reset a user's password? We'll see. Hopefully it should talk to me like a pirate. But this is a great way to like just grab a bunch of junk from all over the place that happens to change a lot, put it all in one place and ask questions about it. But also you'll notice that this whole, yeah, oh, hey there, matey, you be seeking to reset a user's password, are you? Oh, that's so stupid. But you guys get the idea, right? Like if I wanted it to only do a certain thing or talk a certain way, like you could get really elaborate. You have 8,000 characters of instructions that you could use to make your notebook behave like a person, right? Like a specific kind of employee. You could program it to do that. But real quick before I skip over, this whole center section that's taken up most of my screen, you might perceive it as like, that's annoying, I can't get rid of that. The reason is because the idea, big difference between agents and notebooks, is your notebook content is probably changing a lot. Like if you think about it like a project, well, projects are constantly being updated, right? Like timelines are being updated, documents are being drafted, meeting series are happening, emails are coming in. Like this center section is like your current state of the project update. And so this will always look different every single time you come back and look at your notebook because the thought process would be that all the stuff down here is changing as other people are working on it. So that's why this whole center section is so commanding so much real estate of your screen. Um, Last thing about this is you can share these. And so if we go back to the message center post, it said AI powered workspace. So this is where you kind of like a loop workspace, like they're cousins. Um, you could invite and share this with other people or an entire group of people. And there's not a read only role. So there's owner and editor, again, kind of like a loop workspace where I could bring people in and we can all work in the same notebook together. There's not a here's my notebook and I'm going to allow Joe to use it. It would be this is Joe and I's notebook. So very different frame of mind, I would say, to have when you want to collaborate with other people on a notebook. So bringing people into it is going to let them make changes to it. They could update those instructions or they could add more references and stuff like that. So it's very collaborative. It's designed to be used with very fast-paced material. They're very, very powerful, and I could see that we could certainly do a session on this after that feature launches because everybody will be able to see it, which I think is super awesome. The files, these are shortcuts that point to the files. So this particular IT Bible, like OneNote notebook, like if I came in here and added a whole new page about networking and it talked about like, extension office, 5G wireless, and it had all kinds of stuff in there about it. If I were to go into my notebook tomorrow and ask a question about 5G wireless, it would pick that up. So I don't have to make any changes here. That's why this is so powerful, and that's why it's great to point it at stuff that's very dynamic, like data that's being updated a lot, because it's hard to keep up with that stuff. And that's the objective here is to kind of help that be a little bit easier to consume for everybody. So I'm really excited to see what this looks like.
Having greater access to that will be very helpful. Especially it'd be nice if we were able to get the sharing. That would be really great if we get some sharing in there. I have 3 different notebooks. OneNotes. Kind of our server administration team and our help desk team, and then we've got a notebook that we keep for all the IT staff in the college, and we brought them all into one notebook. Copilot notebook. And now I can ask questions and reason over those. And that's shared out with half a dozen other people to take advantage of all those 3 resources. And probably between those 3 resources, there are hundreds of OneNote pages. And it works really, really well. That sourcing, which is really nice too, is go back to the source, but you're getting a nice output document from Copilot, and you could use that just to generate maybe something into an email. So those instructions that Dwayne showed you, if you're often thinking about what you're doing with that content, is take advantage of those instructions so that maybe the output is something like, in our case, user-centric, asking for something I might use to reply to some of our users. Well, I could have that output already set that way, ready to go, copy, paste, put it in email, something like that.
Yeah. You could see what it did here is when I said create a presentation, it just pivoted to the PowerPoint agent. The infographic one, the Excel one, those are, well, I don't see Excel. Oh, there it is, spreadsheet. The infographic one is relatively new, and this is using Designer. The But yeah, being able to make a status update off of this, either just using a regular prompt right out of Copilot or using one of the agents and making a Word file out of it, you got lots of options. Probably too many options, if I'm being honest. Like there's a lot of ways you can slice and dice this thing. It might be a little overwhelming, so we'll try to make it easier on everybody when we do a notebook session. Um, okay, so I knew we had a lot of updates, but I didn't think we would talk for 51 minutes about updates. Joe and I have been working on something. I put it in the chat a little while ago, just for everybody to see what we've been messing around with. We had a weird situation. We got reported for spam. And I don't feel like we're very spammy. At least I hope not. And the spam report came from the automated email that you get when you sign up for the community. So I'm going to try to be very understanding here. But somebody signed up for the community, received the invite of being added to the community, and then proceeded to report that email to a few different organizations, including their university, as spam. Kind of perplexing. I don't know what was going on, but it did make Joe and I realize that the official cloudycounty.com website wasn't really a website. It just took you to a place that said coming soon or under construction or something cheesy like that. And so we thought, well, if somebody was trying to look up what Cloudy County is, we should probably give them something that looks a little bit more official when they Google it, or at least go to the website to see what in the heck this is all about. That makes it look more official. So that's what we did. So we were goofing off last month talking about a prompt library for extension agents and land grant. And that's actually where this whole thing started. Is Joe and I, where were we?
We were at a Whole Foods hanging out for like 4 hours.
We sat in a Whole Foods. What is wrong with us? But I drove up to Gainesville, sat with Joe in a Whole Foods, ate some sort of weird salad and drank some weird soda. And not my normal Coke Zero. It was something else. And we made a website. So this is the website. It's pretty bare bones right now, but we wanted to show it to you because we're no longer going to require the aka.ms/join Cloudy County, because we're just going to send everybody to cloudycounty.com. So if you have anybody who's interested in joining, or if you want something with hopefully some sort of substance to show a colleague what this is and that it's legitimate and not report us as spam, they could go here, and if they wanted to join, they could click join, and that would take them to the same form that we've been using for the last 3+ years. This form has not changed in 3 years. We might update it because the graphics look kind of pixelated and old, and we have better tools now.
Look like DALL-E 3 before.
This is pre-AI. This is older than that. But our goal is going to be to take our monthly video and blogify it. Might be, I don't know if that's a word, but we're going to try to turn it into like a little write-up, and we'll highlight the most recent one. So that's already happening right now. The most recent video will always be here. But we want it to be able to where you can scroll and you can see the last couple of sessions that we've done, see what they were about, determine if you're interested enough to actually watch the video, or if just the write-up is enough for you to understand what's new and what's going on, and ideally just make it easier for people to know what Cloudy County is doing. I plastered our names and our faces all over the place so that people can see that we are real people and not scammers. So Joe and Dwayne down there, we're on the about page, and this is the story of Cloudy County. Special events, special places to us. These two events right here. I've got pictures of us sitting in West Palm, at the event, the AMPIC in West Palm, and people signing up and handing out stickers and all that kind of stuff. That was a really cool memory. So kind of flashbacks to those. And then eventually we'll add some information about ourselves in there, I guess. Not that everybody's here to learn about us. The prompt library thing, this was bananas. Like I took an idea, fed it to some Copilot stuff, and said, make me a mock-up of it. And it basically made a completely working prompt library. So we're all of these prompts that are in here, Copilot came up with. But our goal, I think, and y'all tell me if you think this is worth it or not, but our goal would be to accept scenarios and situations and prompts from all of you of things that you've been working on, or maybe even Joe and I help kind of polish and refine them if you want that, on how to use Copilot or AI to get something done. And if you've got a end of year report, or you've got, I know last time, call him out, Jay Craig gave us some ideas of some stuff that he was working on, and we could make some prompts for that. I'd like to showcase those and put those here in a place that everybody could get access to. And yeah, to answer the question in the chat, this is a public facing website. There's no login, anything required for this. We did some janky programming to add in like a little upvote functionality there. So like you can upvote some prompts if you think they're really cool. So Draft and Extension Newsletter currently has 4 whole upvotes, which is probably me, Joe, and 2 other test accounts if I had to guess. But you'll see all kinds of filtering here. And so we're going to try to make a way that we can accept prompts from you all and highlight them and put them here. And that is, I know extension agents are always looking for impact. So if we can help by putting your name on a prompt, and you could put that in a report or what, I don't know. I may be barking up the wrong tree here, but some way to help you showcase your impact that you have in extension. So it's a little lean right now, but it's all custom. It was all Copilot built, the whole web page. No templates or anything in this so far. But we just wanted to show that and let everybody know that we're legitimate. At least I feel like we are. Maybe we're not. Maybe we're all I don't know.
That coding session was a lot of fun. Using some Copilot advanced features just to, I don't know, 4 hours of talking to it and testing it, and producing that prompt library. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty wild to see like what could be created now with just like some workshopping, like that whole idea session would have just been like, let's come up with an idea of what we want the website to look like, and then it would take them weeks to actually develop it. We did both of those at the same time while drinking a Zevia or whatever at Whole Foods.
It's something seeing more and more is the concept of taking your PowerPoint deck or taking some type of fact sheet and converting it into, with Copilot, maybe an interactive HTML page. Thinking about using those tools a little bit differently, and making your data look a little differently. Being able to use Copilot to do that is something you pretty much can do now. Just another way to think about how to display and get your information out.
Yep, telling the story, using the right tool for the story, I guess. But all right, well, that's it from us. Hopefully I don't know. We just wanted to show off the fact that there's an actual website now. So we have been slacking for the last 3 years and never actually made a web page. We registered the domain, and then we just used it for like email and stuff. We never actually made a public presence aside from the sign up form. So just remember cloudycounty.com and tell your friends if they're interested. That's an easy thing for them to type in and go to, see what we're all about. And if they want to be on the meetings, they can hit the join now button and come hang out with us. But I'll go ahead and turn off the recording, and Joe and I can hang out for a few extra minutes. If you have any questions, we'd be more than happy to answer any random questions you might have.